We're rolling.
Welcome back to episode 63 of the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast, everybody. What's going on? Flying solo today. Miguel got stuck in traffic. We sent him home.
Flying solo.
We are sponsored by Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. We're also sponsored by a little marketing company called Black Belt Digital Marketing. My favorite guys. They do all of our artwork, websites, everything. Anything you need to build your business, Google ads, logos, SEO, lead gen, social media, absolutely anything. They can help. All right. Check them out at bbdigitalmarketing.com. My name is Milton Campus. I am a brown belt training out of South Florida. You can check me out on Instagram at Uncle Milty BJJ or at the handle for the show at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. Bo behind the camera.
Hello.
See, I have this little thing here that says Miguel riding shotgun. No, not today.
Not today.
Womp, womp, womp.
Someone took a shit today.
Yeah. That traffic was nasty. I got stuck in the same traffic, and he's coming from an hour further north than me. So joining us today, we have a very cool guest. I think a lot of people are going to recognize the handle. Obviously, people know who you are as well. But I knew the handle before I knew you. I was reposting every once in a while. I saw you. So we have BJJ and Judo black belt. He's also a Sambo national champion. Professor Vernon, Captain Kirk, a.k.a. at Jiu-Jitsu Dad Bod. That's the one that everybody knows, right?
Yep. Well, it's funny. My son's Instagram account just got hacked.
Really?
Oh, dude.
Oh, that sucks.
Fucking hose.
Yeah.
But so instead, it used to be Snoop a Loop because we were watching Old School when he put his Instagram account together, and he just did it off of that. But now it's Jiu-Jitsu Sunbod.
So where did that come from? Where did the name come from? How did that all start?
So when I first started, I was roughly 300 pounds. And
I think I saw a picture.
I was a fat fuck. And,
All right.
And as I got leaner, you'd always hear stuff about like dad bod. And I'm like, I kind of have the dad bod, and there were a couple people like, nah, you really don't. And I'm like, all right, well, I got the jiu-jitsu dad bod. And it just kind of.
So you were doing jiu-jitsu at 300 pounds, judo and jiu-jitsu when you were 300 pounds?
So I started. So I'll put it this way: summer of 2009 was the last day of school, and the leading up to that, I'd lost my job in March. It was the year everything crashed, the housing bubble and all that bullshit.
2008.
I didn't lose my job. I didn't lose my job because of that. I got caught up in some corporate Game of Thrones shit, and my brother got forced out of the door, and they tried 3 other ways to get me out the door after he was gone. And then they finally found a way to get me out the door. And I never forget, I was about to leave to go interview with one of my competitors. At the time, and my brother felt really bad about it. And he's like, man, I got to do something for your kids, it's summer. And I'm like, this ain't your fault, man. Like, this is some bullshit. Like, they were, the guy who they brought back was afraid of you, and this is what they did. And it's some hoe shit. And, hey, but he's like, I'm putting your kids in something. So I put my daughter in dance. My son was 5, and he tried soccer, and he was good, but very shy. He's like, I want to do karate. I took a lot of Taekwondo as a kid. I was like, all right, cool. I like that. I took him to this one place where, ironically, my instructor, so it was attached to the only workout gym in town. And the owner of that place retired. Alan Crowder, who fought in the UFC, his dad owns the workout gym. He bought that. And now my instructor teaches out of that gym. And, but I'm there the first day, and, he's 5. Kid looks up at me and goes, Daddy, when do I get my karate uniform? And the woman running it goes, it's a Taekwondo uniform. Real snotty. And I'm like, ma'am, he's 5. That's unnecessary. So the next day was the last day of school. I'm there, some little party thing. And I'm talking with one of the dads who I didn't know, because I didn't know any of them. I traveled a shit ton back then. I was gone 4 or 5 nights a week. And I'm like, man, I didn't like that place. I'm going to take him to this other place. He's like, dude, don't go there. I'm going to rip you off. It's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Don't go. He goes, come to this judo school with me. And he took class. And both of his kids, his 2 oldest kids took class. One of them was in my son's class. So they were all buddies. And I'm like, okay, cool. I think I know what judo is. Whatever, dude. So again, it's June. It's in North Carolina, and this is an unair conditioned warehouse. I'm in there. He's running around. He's having a good time. Like, do you like it, buddy? Yeah, I had a good time. All right, cool. Talking to the instructor, like how much, how many days a week, all the standard crap. And he just looks at me and he goes, big guy, where are you going? Home. Class is over. We'll be here tomorrow for the next one. He goes, the adult class is about to start, right? And I'm like, you think my 5-year-old's ready for the adult class? And I knew what he was doing. I was trying to talk my way out of it. And then it was, famous last words. I'm going to do this for a month. He's shy. I'm going to get him acclimated. And then I'm going to fade off into the background and he's going to do his thing. 2 months later, I was competing. 5 years. At the end of that year, 6 months later, I'm cross-training with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. 5 years later, I had my judo black belt. 6 years later, I was opening my own school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a trip.
Once it gets his hands around you, Bo.
Yeah.
Bo doesn't train. I'm trying to get my producer, Bo, here to train. We're just talking about it. He's close. He's close. He just, right before we got on, he was just like, he's got a couple of things that he has to do personally. And then he just told me, he said, I think we might do something here.
Yeah,
I'd love to train. I mean, I just got my brown belt. I haven't coached in a long time, but I'd love to just kind of get him in my garage mats and start showing him some stuff.
Yeah.
And then find him a school, make sure that he's comfortable, and then find him a school.
I got to get my teeth.
Absolutely.
We're too far away from each other to train to get, for him to train at my gym.
Right.
But find him a good school. I think it's kind of cool if he just kind of plays around with it a little bit, gets acclimated.
I got to get my teeth done so I can get him knocked out.
Yeah, hey, you just used my joke. You got to use my joke. So what age was that, Vernon? I
was 31.
31. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like 290.
Wow.
I'm 43 now. I'll be 44 next year.
Yeah, I didn't start till I was 41. I started jiu-jitsu at 41. Always loved to hit the bag, a little just kickboxing on my own, find a gym here or there. Did kind of, I call it dance fighting. You kind of stand in place, do some jump rope, throw some hands, drop and do some burpee, that kind of stuff, which I love.
Oh, yeah.
And I did I started to do their Muay Thai classes. And then I was watching the jiu-jitsu, but then I had a friend open a jiu-jitsu gym, and that's how I got my start at 41. So yeah, right before my 41st birthday. So yeah, I mean, I didn't start till young. I mean, it got its hooks in me, and I'm a freaking addict.
Well, again,
you think?
Yeah, right. Podcast, T-shirt, website, business all around.
Jiu-Jitsu Addicts Anonymous. Hi, my name is Vernon, and I love to be half naked and roll with other men.
I heard you say something like, I told you I do, my little research. I'll listen to a podcast on the way down, and I heard you tell the guy, you said something like you were in an interview, and you told them like, I'm going to be fighting another man tomorrow in my pajamas.
So I'm actually, here.
Tell that story, guy. Tell that story if you like.
So I had a job interview, and I'm actually sitting at the table right now that I interviewed at.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's awesome. Shit. Yeah, very cool.
So I walk in, I've got my suit on. I grew up in DC, and a lot of old school DC punk bands are from my neighborhood. Fugazi has a mailing address that I could see the back porch from my front porch. Okay. So I had my Doc Marten dress shoes on, and
I had a pair of those back in the day.
Somebody made a comment about the Docs to boot. So I was like, all right, it's kind of my room. And I sit down, and my now boss looks at me and goes, we do group interviews here. And there's a bunch of people sitting around a conference table. I'm like, okay. And she goes, we're all going to ask you questions at the same time. That makes some people nervous. Are you nervous? And I sat there and I thought to myself, and I'm like, this is either going to get me the job or it's not. I went, fuck it. And I went full retard. And I said, so how I said I have a flight to catch? And she goes, uh-huh. I said, so I'm going to fly out to Arizona today. And tomorrow night, in front of around like 2,000, 2,500 people live and probably 40, 50,000 watching, because it was a fight to win, streaming, I'm going to walk out onto an elevated stage with like lights and sound and a smoke machine. And I'm going to fight another man for money in my pajamas. I'm okay.
So
I can handle this.
I haven't been there, but I've never been scared to talk in front of people, and I'm a salesman by trade.
Yep.
But my wife always asks me, I can't believe you could just talk like that in front of anybody. And when I tell, first of all, I've been doing it for so long, but I've been in worse. When you have a grown man sitting on your chest about to choke you, standing in front of a room just talking to people isn't such a big deal.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Well, and to give you an idea of how that line went over, other than the fact that I'm sitting here right now,
I got the job.
when I left, you asked the standard question, like, what are the next steps in the process? And they go, well, look, we have 3 open positions right now. We're interviewing around 20 candidates. You're the first. Okay. So if we like you, we refer you back to HR. They have one more interview with you. And if they like it, you're hired. I said, okay, cool. When would that happen? Oh, you won't hear from HR until the end of next week. Okay. No worries. Well, I had a layover in Oklahoma City. I step off the plane in Oklahoma City and I already had an email from HR.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So,
Sweet.
Yeah. And now how long have you been with the company?
2.5 years.
Okay.
Give or take. So, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like I actually listened to your podcast with Mike Bidwell yesterday, and
cool.
You were talking about the you asked the question, something along the lines of like, what would you change in your jiu-jitsu journey?
Yeah,
I think what a lot of people miss, and I've got like younger guys now who are way more exposed to it, and then on top of it, like, with flow grappling and all the stuff that's out there and, all of that, which is, I mean, it's fucking phenomenal. The amount of not only information, but good information that's available to you right now.
Yeah.
But they all think it's just like, oh, dude, I'm like, these 23-year-olds are like, begging to get their blue belts and da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be like this. And I'm like, oh, this is what my walkout's going to be like. I'm like, boys, I'm like, it took me years to get a super fight. I'm like, and it was like, man, 2012, 2013 super fights were rare. And if you weren't a fucking black belt, you were begging and pleading to be on a damn card.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, guys, you're so concentrated on the end. You're missing the journey. Like if you, that day before that, the day before that last day of school where I was standing there in that Taekwondo studio, like, fuck this bitch, you're an asshole, and if somebody walked up to me and said, hey bro, you're going to, take your son to this thing tomorrow, and 12 years from now, you're going to have lost 100 pounds. You're going to have released a video on BJJ Fanatics. You're going to be, you're going to have done, like, you're going to have traveled the world. You're going to have 2 black belts. You're going to do all this shit. First of all, it probably would have never happened because I'd have been looking for it, right? 2, I'd have laughed in your face, like, wrong guy. Like, but crack is cool. I mean, I'm sure it is, but like, no, that ain't,
Yeah.
And the cool thing about all of this is it's like, we really get the opportunity. Like I'm in my 40s and I'm technically, I'm a pro fucking athlete. And it's like, look, I've made, hundreds upon hundreds of dollars doing it.
Stacks and stacks of ones everywhere.
Damn Skippy, boy.
You should take a picture on your bed, throw all those ones on your bed and just lay there in your gi.
Oh yeah. But at the same time, like I always wanted to be a football player. I played a couple of years in college. Like I ended up going to a D3 college. And I chose my college around where I wanted to play football at. I didn't give a fuck about anything else, right? And I went to really good private schools. I'm intelligent, but that was all that really mattered to me. And honestly, when I left and I realized that it was over, That's when I started getting fat. That's when I started getting depressed. That's what, because I was like, man, that's something I always want to do, and I'm never going to do it again.
Let's talk about the weight loss, because I battle with that all the time. I'm 240. Yep. I'm probably like 5'10 and a half, 5'11. 240.
5'11. I'm 5'10. You're taller.
I started to weightlift again. So, now I'm taking protein shakes, and actually I was trying to lose weight. I started putting more on.
Yep.
Did your weight loss, was that,
mm-hmm.
I mean, did you start to change everything about what you did, what you put in the tank, or was the workout just, you started to lose weight and it was all about the training?
Well, I'll start with this, and then I'll kind of tell you how my progression went. I wrote a blog about 2-3 years ago. In my younger days, so I had to leave school for financial reasons, and I was working in a gym, and that was my career until I was like 24, 25. And then I went into something that's very similar, and I started selling high-end microscopes, and I did that for like 15 years. And, but I wrote this blog, and it was right around this time of year. I said, okay, we're coming up on January 1st. Now, there's a bunch of snake oil out there in the health and fitness business, whether it be workouts, diets, supplements. Like, there's a lot of bullshit out there. They're just, it's the old adage from poker, never let a sucker keep his money. Like, that's what it really is. But what ends up happening is this New Year's resolutions crowd, like, I've made a lot of money off of it, but it's also like, okay, we've magically been around the sun one more time, and all of a sudden, come Monday, you're going to fucking, all the food you're supposed to eat, it's going to magically be in your fridge, and that's what you're going to eat. You need to go to the gym and work out. You're magically going to go to the gym and work out. No, that's not how this works. The problem is we try to do everything at once. And again, if I had tried to do everything at once, I'd have failed miserably, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. For me, it was, I'm having a good time. And I lost 20 pounds on spec, because you're in a judo gi in a warehouse in North Carolina in June, July, August. No, you guys in Florida, you know what I'm saying.
Maybe some fans, like, if you're lucky, right? Maybe some big industrial fans here and there. No, not at all.
No. And around November, I was like, man, I haven't lost any weight in a while. I was about 270. I'm like, did I plateau? Am I doing something wrong? And I went, hey, dummy, it's not 1,000 degrees in here anymore. Right. And I hovered around like 260-ish till about my purple belt. And right about my purple, I was about 240. And that's when it really started to come off. I really, like, when I played football, I loved lifting weights. I fucking love lifting. I loved going to the gym. But then, A, the gym kind of became my career. And B, what's the purpose? Why am I doing this? A lot of, like, I bump into a lot of guys who were athletes who they don't do shit anymore because why? Like, nobody's telling me to do it, and I have no reason to improve. So why am I going to do it? I became, again, I say this, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but I say it honestly. Like, I come from a family, 3 out of my 4 grandparents, my dad, 2 of his brothers are all alcoholics, like, wow. Bad. And I kind of use the science of addiction in my favor. Again, we were joking earlier, like Jiu-Jitsu Anonymous. Yeah, I'm a fucking crackhead when it comes to this. I'm not going to lie. But what I do is, that is how I improve. Like, man, I did really well here. How can I make it better? Well, man, if I was a little lighter, I'd be a little quicker. Okay, well, let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do that. And it's not, but the thing is, like, I do a shit ton of yoga now because I feel broken most of the time. But yoga has made me lean as hell, made me strong as hell. You know what I mean? I still lift, and I'm having to adjust how I lift because I still lift like a goddamn meathead, and it's not good for me. Yeah. Like, I can do more. No, you shouldn't do more. Put more weight, better. Like, you know? But I think what everybody misses is we get so concerned about the result. You know, and as I said earlier, if you're not in love with the journey of it, like if you're not, if you're losing weight just to lose weight, that's kind of you're not going to do it. If I'm losing weight to be like, as a goal to be better about, like, I've got friends who they've never played a sport. They work out 6 days a week because they just like doing it. I mean, I understand it, but to me, it seems purposeless. But for them, it serves a purpose, right? So now what? You know what I mean? So I tell all these guys, I'm like, you have to do it. You know, you have to assign a goal. You have to assign a purpose. You have to have a reason. And not everybody does that, right? Like, in some ways, I'm a really good goal setter. Like, I know how to make the improvements over time. But if it's, I'm going to do this by this date, I'm way too analytical, and I'm be like, yeah, but what if this happens, or I have to do this or that or that or that. And I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
But, I tell my guys all the time, I'm like, what you need to be concerned about most is mat time. It's not about what competition, I have guys well, some of the guys who I'm about to promote this weekend, they're like, well, I just don't really want to compete anymore as a white belt. I'm like, you've done 4 tournaments. I'm like, I average 8 to 10 a year, and that's over my 12 years. And that I didn't do. My first year I did 1. My second year I did 2. And I only did 6 this year because I've been trying to, I still love competing, but I'm trying to transition out a little bit more because I'm trying to grow my school. I'm trying, I just released my first video on fanatics. I'm trying to do these things where it's like, I can either be okay at all of them or something's got to take a backseat.
Yeah.
So, all right. I've kind of gotten my yayas out. I still have a few things I want to do from a competitive standpoint, but man, I enjoy it, but I'm on to other things. And these guys, they're like, well, I mean, this tournament, I'm like, you need mat time, dude. A good comp is a month of classes. It just is. I don't care what you say. People tell you all the time, you're right. You don't have to compete. But if your goal is to be a competitor, you have to compete. I've talked with, I've got some really good competitors that are around this area that are friends of mine, high level guys. I've had the opportunity to speak with, everybody has the story dude, I saw that band and nobody knew who they were. It was just me and the girlfriends. I've got a Gordon Ryan story like that. Again, I've had the opportunity to talk to people, and the one thing I know is if you want to get good at something, you got to do it. So if you want to be a competitor, you got to fucking compete. You want to just do jiu-jitsu and have fun and be in class, cool. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's what I think the other problem is there's some people who are like, oh man, so-and-so is really wants to do this. Well, you're not so-and-so, dude. I'm lucky. I'm very fortunate. I've been able to do what I've been able to do, but I have friends of mine who I've been my, training partners since I've started who definitely have not been able to. But they've, it's because they started a family. It's because they started a business. They did this, they did that. I can tell they're man, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, I get it. I fucking get it. But it wasn't in the cards for you. And there's no need to look down on that. You made your decision, and honestly, it's working out well for you. So it took you longer to get your belt. You didn't get to compete as much as you wanted to. So what? I tell my students all the time, I'm like, if you're running late to class, you have to miss a class because of work, family, grown up shit. Dude, be a grown up. I get it. I have a work function tonight. I'm not teaching tonight. You know what I mean? I had a guy coming in from out of town that wanted to private from me, and I got stuck doing this work thing that I'm going to go to after this. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's grown. I got 2 kids to feed. Like,
yeah,
it's grown man shit, right?
Do you feel? How far do you feel? If you don't mind me asking this, how far? We won't tell the boss. We won't tell your boss. How far do you? How far do you feel? How far out do you feel you are from potentially just running your gym? Is it close?
I'm hopefully like within a year or 2.
Yeah.
You know, I've got 2 kids. One's about to turn 18. It's my son. He actually, you know, basically runs my kid, you know, helps me run my kids program.
How old is he again?
We've been training 17.
He's 17 now. Okay. That's awesome.
He's been training for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like, this is the thing that people don't understand. Like, you know, I don't know if anybody's heard the story Boucher tells about like almost quitting at purple belt because he thought he sucked. Yeah. You know, a lot of the high level guys, like, you know, like I remember I've heard this from Tom DeBlas. I've heard this from like Gary Tonin, Gordon, like they didn't do very well early on. Honestly, I think doing really well as like a white belt or even a blue belt is almost a curse.
Flash in the pan, they burn out.
Well, it becomes too easy. Like I've seen like, I wrestled, and my wrestling coach in high school, before he was at my high school, he was at Lock Haven University, which is a Division I program. And before he was at Lock Haven University, he was in the Soviet Union.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You know, you factor in judo and everything else. And let's face it, when you watch ultra heavies, especially at white belt and a blue belt, what fat guy ends up on top?
The strongest fat guy winds up being on top, and then it's pretty much a boring match most of the time, right?
Right. So my guys are going to be better at takedowns than most other jiu-jitsu schools. Yeah. Because we drill stand-up. We start every round from our feet unless we just don't have the room. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I'll put it this way. One of my guys who I'm promoting this weekend, his last tournament, the only loss he had, the guy is still mad at him. Do you know why?
Took him down?
Because Ryan took him down twice, and he wrestled at NC State.
Oh, wow. Oh.
And my guy was a high school wrestler, kind of, but he was too fat and lazy to really do anything with it. And he took him down twice because, especially in the gi, Ryan's technique, and Ryan's a big fucker, don't get me wrong, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he's 285. Like, he is not a small man. But again, technique trumps. And I've had a lot of guys who they do really well at white belt, and then when they get to blue belt and everybody's a little better, it ain't that easy. That's why there's the blue belt blues, right? There's that. And in all honesty, I feel like the generation, and I mean like American generation of black belts that is before me, especially in some of these smaller areas like North Carolina, for example, where you would travel hours to go train with a blue belt. A purple belt was kind of like there's a purple belt. Brown belts probably didn't speak English, and you had to come up with some real cash to hopefully have somebody translate what you said to a black belt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when they got their blue belt, it was a very big and accomplished thing, and it really was. But they still hold on to that like now, when you can throw a stone and hit a blue belt. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as big a deal. And I'm not saying it's still not an accomplishment, because it is absolutely an accomplishment. But when you make something, especially that takes a year or two, such a big deal, and you realize you just climbed a foothill and the mountain is staring you in the face, that's kind of daunting to a lot of people. And so I tell my guys, I'm like, blue belt is the easiest belt to get, and it's the toughest belt to get rid of. Because like I was a white to blue was 10 months, and that's with six months of judo going in and cross training. So training 6 days a week. Blue belt in 10 months. I got my purple belt 3 years later. I was a purple belt for 6 or 7 years. And purple belt by far was the toughest belt, because that's kind of the belt where my instructor pushed me and like a lot of the other guys like out of the nest. And then you're like, we'd show up and take a class from him. I had a school, my best friend who like, we both kind of like help him out, like do a lot of things for him. We both have our own schools, and we'd show up and like, it was still always the same old stuff. He would answer questions. He was, he's great about all that, but class wasn't for you. You were there to help him. He wasn't there to help you, but he would still help you, and you would still pick up on stuff. But it's not like, man, professor, I got stuck in spider guard last tournament. I need some help. Yeah, but they don't know how to break guard. You know what I mean? Like, and I get that, and I agree with that. I actually think that's the right way to do it. Purple belt is that belt where, man, like the competition gets really, gets thinner, and i.e. better. And then now you have to figure it out, and fucking like, it can be tough, but it's also fucking great, man. Like, that struggle is what makes you better. And a lot of people just like, your shirt says embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You've got to fucking do that in this sport, man. It makes you so much better at everything.
Vernon, give me a second. I'm going to shout out a couple of our sponsors, including DD214 Fightwear, at DD214_Fightwear, gear for patriotic rollers. Get 15% off your online order at DD214.com with code JJD. As always, shout out to Flow and Roll at flow_n_roll on Instagram. If you're watching or listening in the month of December 2021, everything on the site has been reduced, so no discount codes. They've all been disabled. If you're listening January 1st, 2022 and beyond, the JJD coupon code for 20% off will be back in effect. All right, so check them out on Instagram for their T-shirts, custom gis, no-gi kits. They do incredible artwork. All right. Thank you to Feito IT and AV down here in South Florida, actually on the entire state of Florida. They specialize in commercial and residential automation. So it's security cameras, CCTV. They hooked up my house really nice. I got them coming out doing new stuff all the time.
And it's streaming in China now, your house.
Yeah, right. Check them out at
That's
Feito.
what I was watching on OnlyFans.
Yeah, right. That was me taking a shower before. At FeitoITAV.com. So it's FeitoITAV.com. Feito means like kind of like cute but ugly in Spanish. Let them know the Dummy sent you. Gym owners, take this new year, get a new security camera or system put in your gym, especially in this current environment. Be a good idea to update, and you can tell your students' parents how much you're going to take care or how well you're going to take care of their kids. Shout out to the Troop Welfare Foundation. They're a veteran nonprofit dedicated to helping veterans find outlets to cope with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues through martial arts, physical training, recreational activities. You can check them out on Instagram at Troop Welfare Foundation, and their website is troopwelfarefoundation.org. And we're going to have a representative from the company or from the organization on one of the next two episodes. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share wherever you're watching or listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click the bell. Thank you, Bo. And get notifications each time we launch a new video.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the show, please help us thank our sponsor at Fightback CBD. We couldn't do this without them. Head over to their website at fightbackcbd.com. Check out their growing line of CBD products and find the solution that's right for you. That's fightbackcbd.com. And get 20% off your purchase with discount code JJD. Also, check them out on social media at FightbackCBD. Now back to the show.
All right, let's get back after it. So, Vernon, tell everybody the name of the school. I know you've mentioned Relentless a few times. Tell everybody the name and where you locate, exactly where you're located, so people know where to find you.
I'm in it's Relentless Martial Arts. We're in Monroe, North Carolina. And then also I'd be sad if I didn't give a shout out to Triumph Fight Academy in Indian Land, South Carolina. I teach there a couple days a week as well too. And actually the guy who runs DD214 trains there as well too. Josh is a great guy.
Josh,
Cool.
yes. Awesome.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, he sent us a whole bunch of new stuff. I got awesome new. I was talking about it before. I'm so comfortable. It's like it's a hoodie, but it's nice and light, like a t-shirt. I feel so comfortable.
I told
right now.
I
I'll take a little nap.
I told you I'm envious of that sweatshirt, Josh.
I'll see what
Milton.
I'll see what I got in the bag. I got some other stuff. So tell us a little bit about the competition side for you, Vernon. You've done fight to wins. You've talked about doing, super fights. What's your favorite organization to fight in, and what's coming up next?
I Fight to Win's always been great. I've done 4 for them, all over. I did Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Scottsdale, and Dallas. And actually the one they did in Charlotte, my son did. And I, of course, had to miss it because my best friend since 8th grade was getting married that weekend.
Oh, wow.
So not only did I not get to compete on Fight to Win, I also missed my son's debut.
Wow. Have you been able to fight on the same card with him yet at any event?
Oh yeah, we've done that. We've done that a good bit.
That's awesome.
Toro Cup around here is really good. Pro Jitsu around here is very good. There's a newer up and coming one called BJJ. They just did an event in September in Kansas City.
Okay.
I was the main event on that card. They're going to be in Greenville, North Carolina, January 15th. I've got a matchup set for that. Poster will be out soon.
Very cool. Tag us.
I will also have
tag us when you post it. We'll spread it. We'll put it out there too.
Thank you. I've got. And then actually the same weekend, I'm having to split my squad a little bit. I'm the marketing director for Southeastern Sambo, and their regional championship is in Greensboro, North Carolina as well the same weekend. So I've got one of my coaches, the guy who runs Triumph, is going to take a squad up to that. And then I'm going to take a squad from both schools up to BJJ and compete on that card, and then kind of go from there. But I, what I feel like the good news is like a lot of the local tournaments are all, like AGF, I just ref for them. They do a really good job. The guy who does Fuji in our area is a really good dude. I love their stuff. I've worked with everybody else. I'm a fan for the most part. Like, and I just tell my guy, the thing I hate, and like, I hate it with an utter passion, at least in this area, things tend to stack upon themselves. Like February 5th, there's 2 events in North Carolina and 1 event in South Carolina that are all super fights. All people I've worked with and are friends of mine. And I'm like, do we really need to do this?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, it sucks because like you'll go weeks and months without nothing, and then like 4 events within a month or like within 2 weeks. And I'm just like, if y'all spread this out, it might work a little better. But it's just.
Do you find that they're competitive? You're friends with everybody, but are they friends with each other where they can be, coordinate a little bit? Like, hey, I got an event that weekend.
No, they tend to.
I kind of knew the answer to that, but
yeah, I'm not going to name names because I just don't believe in it. But there's certain organizations that will intentionally stack on top of other events.
This used to happen in autocross. This used to happen,
dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's like think about it, like, but I think the smartest organization on the MMA side of things is Bellator. They do them on Friday nights. So it's like, let's not compete with the UFC. Why are we going to try to compete for the Saturday night audience? Well, let's do it on Fridays, and it kind of had a different format for a while, but,
Well, I mean, again, like my thing is this, there's enough to go around. There really is. I do think like, Charlotte tends to be a little tribal around tournaments. Like, these schools like this group and these schools like that group. Personally, I'm like this. Frankly, they end up being the same refs over and over again because the same upper belts end up reffing. Like, let's just be honest here. My thing is, like I work with Tap Cancer Out. Like I've seen people try to stack events on top of Tap Cancer Out. And, A, I'm a brand ambassador. B, I believe in the cause because, my mom has, since 2017 has beaten lung cancer and something called MDS, which is like leukemia brought on by, by chemo. And I'm like, wow. I've had people like, well, I know they've got that this weekend, but why don't you? And I'm like, first of all, fuck off. I've never understood, like, I guess not everybody tends to be loyal, but like, I remember when I first started selling microscopes, I had a camera rep. My brother is the one who got me into it, by the way. Like, I was working with my brother and he was basically talking shit about my brother to me. I'm like, you do realize that's my brother, right? We just don't. I know Kirk is kind of a common last name, but you do realize, I know we don't look a whole lot, but we're brothers. He's like, I know. I'm like, dude, like,
wow.
Blood is definitely
whatever. Okay.
I don't know what he's thinking.
You know, I mean, again, I guess I am me, but like, my big thing is, and I tell everybody this, I'm like, tournaments are there for improvement of your students. I want my students, like I tell my students all the time, like I have rules for competing. And these are the rules I came up with because I had to do something for myself because, I mean, I've had panic attacks before matches. Like like, you know, my first,
worst part.
I competed.
That weight.
Well, hey, man.
It's the worst part. The competing isn't the hard part.
No,
it's fucking waiting around and the, you know, the lead up and, you know.
I had a surgery back in 2016 on my shoulder, only surgery I've ever had, knock on wood. And I competed 6 months to the day of my surgery. And I like my shoulder, like, see how my finger is?
Mm-hmm.
Like this?
Okay.
Well, this is what my shoulder looked like after the accident. Okay.
Ouch.
And I competed 6 months to the day. I was working for somebody who basically were like, if you get hurt, you're fired. And I drove in a hurricane to get there.
Wow.
And I won. The only other time I had a panic attack was before my first fight to win. And I'm just like, I'm in the locker room and I'm just like, and I walked out where I could get some decent cell signal. And I called my best friend, John Shell. He owns a gym up in Fuquay. We came up together in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, dude, I'm not supposed to be here. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like the fifth match from the end. I'm the top line for judo. Fuck, that ain't supposed to be me. And he's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, I gotta go. And he's like, shut the fuck up, stop being a bitch, and go strangle him.
Yeah.
Okay.
do you think that's like
which I did?
That's awesome. Do you think that's like, I guess they call it like the imposter syndrome? Do you feel like in that moment it's like you said, like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why, like, me? Well, why not you? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's taken me a long time to understand that. Like my first, so I love Seth Daniels and what he's done. Like, I hate judo, the like sport. Like, I don't like the rules. I don't like the politics. The martial art I love. Like, judo has been my cheat code in a lot of ways. Okay. But what Seth Daniels has done and like the rule set he has is fucking amazing. For judo,
for the judo matches?
Correct.
Specifically. Okay.
But what I'm going to say is he was not the first person to do that. I don't know if you remember Kudo Challenge out of Atlanta.
No.
So the one I did was in 2017. Ruben Alvarez, he's the one who's a cop down in Miami now, right?
Yes, yeah. We've been trying to have him on, man. We every time somebody's car breaks down or something happens. But yeah, I know Ruben.
I met
Ruben
him
Alvarez
at that event. He won the absolute. Quentin Rosenzweig took third, and Quentin Rosenzweig took second. Daniel O'Brien took third, and he did it blindfolded, and that was all over the place because he did it blindfolded. But I'm sitting there like they're looking like we're doing these mixed rules judo thing, and I'm like, okay, sounds like I'm a purple belt in BJJ. I've been a black belt for a couple of years in judo, and I'm thinking it's going to be dudes like me, right? Like, oh yeah, I do judo too. This will be fun, right? 2 Olympians, like another guy on the card who's out of Atlanta, who's ranked second in the country behind Travis Stevens. Like, fuck. And it's paid. Put me up in this nice hotel, 8 mats going in the Cobb County Civic Center. And if you grew up like in pro wrestling like I did, and you know all about the Cobb County Civic Center, and 8 mats, unless there's a super fight going, and then there's only 2 people on them 8 mats. And they announce my opponent, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay. He is 44 years old, and he has been doing judo since he was 14.
Shit.
Fuck. Yeah. Didn't have a good day. But, like, it was those types of things where it was like, hey, dude, like, you deserve to be here. It almost feels wrong to say sometimes. Like, I'm like, well, I mean, have I? Like, have I really? And I'm like, look, I get there's a lot of people who have way more time in it than I do. I know that. But I have trained 6-7 days a week for the past, 11, 12 years. I have, I had my shoulder surgery. I had my first competition back post shoulder surgery, October 7th, 2016. I have competed in maybe 60, 70 events, had over 100 matches since that day. By the way, I turned 40 in that time span. I've been promoted. I've done a ton of shit. And I'm like, I deserve it. And again, it can be a hard thing to say sometimes. Like, man, I deserve this. Like, you don't want to be a cocky shit. You don't want to be one of these guys, that's like flexing, like, yeah, bro. I'm not trying to not be humble, but I'm also like, man, I've really worked hard. And why not me?
Yeah.
Why not? And it's funny because like you see guys and they're like these blue belts, like, man, I've done a lot of matchmaking for super fights, and some of the shit people will say to you and the cockiness they'll have. Like, I was setting up an event back in 19, and this dude starts messaging me. And first of all, he starts changing all of his jiu-jitsu pictures on his Facebook page to like jiu-jitsu shit. But it's 2019. He hasn't competed since 2015. He's telling me he's not training in a school regularly, and this is supposed to be his comeback. And by the way, the name of the event is Pro-Jitsu. What's the first word in that title? Okay. This fucker tells me his biggest accomplishment is beating somebody I've never heard of, and we live in the same state. Okay. And then he starts talking shit to me. Like, well, like, he said, I forgot what he said. He's like, well, who the fuck? He goes, who the fuck are you? And I've never said this in my life, and I will never say it again. But I was so fucking pissed. I went, how about this? Google me, motherfucker. How about that? That's who the fuck I am. I said, tell you what, I got a match on the card. I'll have another one with you. How about the fuck that? And then I got blocked. Bitch ass.
Oops.
We lost your picture, Vern. Okay, you're good. No, you're good. You're right back. No worries.
My bad. No. But yeah, like, again, like the event I did in Kansas City, they gave me my, like, hey, we're going to fly you out. Like, we're going to pay you, like, da-da-da. And I was like, damn, okay. And then they told me my opponent's name. Never heard of him. I type it into the Google machine. You know the first thing that popped up was? His BJJ Heroes page.
Wow.
Oh, shit. Okay. Right on. Yeah. And he ended up getting hurt, and I ended up going against one of his students who's fought in, like, Bellator, the UFC, like, lost the ref's decision. But, they came up to me afterwards, like, how long have you been training? I'm like, 12 years. Like, consistently? I'm like, no, I started 12 years ago. Damn. I did no-gi pans, and I lost in the finals of my weight class to Shu Kao, he's the head coach at ATT Atlanta. Who are the brothers? Diego Lima and Douglas Lima.
Mm-hmm.
He's their coach. If you ever seen you've seen the movie Warrior with Tom Hardy, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you know how his brother is like a last minute replacement. There's this really big buff, like darker Brazilian guy that he replaces.
Yeah.
That's Jucao.
Okay.
Jucao won ADCC trials in Brazil in 2001. I didn't know any of that. And he manhandled me.
Wow.
Like, he put me in a body triangle rolling out of bounds, and they reset us with me belly down in a body triangle.
Why even restart it? That's the worst restart ever.
Oh, it fucking blew. So I come up to him looking for him because I want to sign up for Absolute because I'm not happy and I want to get some more matches. And truth be told, like, full disclosure, I'm not going to be an asshole about it. Like, I had an 8-man bracket, and my half of the 8-man bracket didn't show up, so I basically had to buy into the finals anyway. So, it's kind of a paper silver. And he looks at my rash guard and he goes, "You Hubon guy?" My instructor is Hubon. And I go, "Yeah," and he hugged me. I'm like, "Motherfucker, I'm not comfortable with that." And he goes, "Man, when I first come to the U.S., man, Hubon, he takes such good care of me. You have such a good instructor. He's such a nice guy." And I'm like, "Thank you." And again, still don't know who this motherfucker is who just beat my ass. CJ Murdoch and Sean Applegate walk up to me a little later, like, "Man, you drew your cow in the finals." I'm like, "Yeah." And CJ just kind of hugged me and he goes, "That man put one of the worst beatings on me I've ever gotten in my life." A few days later, I'm on video with my instructor, and I'm like, "Hey, professor, yeah." It's like, "Wait, you say you go against Zhu Kao in the finals?" And I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Did not go well for you, did it?" Dead ass. I was like, "No, it did not, professor." He goes, "It's okay. He's a tough guy, man. He's tough."
Hey, I got a question real quick about, again, I heard you talking on a podcast. I love the North-South. Yep. And you talk about the North-South. I think your BJJ Fanatics video, is there like is it part 1 and part 2? Do you have a part 1 and part 2? Do you have something out there about North-South?
So I called it When Judo and Jiu-Jitsu Converge.
Okay.
And this is part 1. And so I started with Newaza, ground stuff instead of top, because I wanted to kind of do it. I've got some takedown stuff I'm already I'm gonna be doing with them as well. Honestly, like we were supposed to film 3 videos that weekend, and we didn't do it in Boston. We did it at my friend John's Academy. We only got 2 done. So we still need to do John's video. We did mine. And then the third one we were going to do, my instructor had a massive stroke back in 2017.
Oh, wow.
And he still doesn't get along, around that well. And so what John and I did is we have what we call the big 4 drills. These are 4 drills that we have taken and we've kind of adapted a little bit to fit us, but they are what I call the foundation of our jiu-jitsu. Like I tell my guys, I'm like, you need to be able to do these 4 drills. And we basically did our own takes on them. I just haven't had a chance to go through it and like fill out all those stuff for it. Make all the timestamps and all that stuff. I'm hopefully going to be doing that over the next week, but we're going to be releasing that on Fanatics as well too. And all the money is going to him. Like John and I aren't seeing a damn dime of it. Like it's just, awesome. It's kind of our tribute to him. But so like my video is you start inside. So think about it this way. When you're a white belt, you're a blue belt, especially as a bigger guy, but even as a smaller guy, if you get the side control, you're probably going to finish the match, right? But around blue belt, it starts to get trickier. And by the time you're like a brown belt, like you ain't finishing nobody from side control. Like it just ain't happening. Like unless it's just some sort of mismatch or oddity or like you're, whatever. But so I've always used, like if I can get the side control, I'm going to finish you. And I'm either going to finish you from case katami, like the scarf hold, headlock, whatever you want to call it, or I'm going to finish you from north-south. North-south Kimura, hands down, like I have a spreadsheet that I keep of, and it's pretty much every match I've ever done. For the most part, it's pretty accurate. Like I started doing it in 2016. Pre-2016, it's, 90-95% accurate. Post, it's 100% accurate. But my number one finish, hands down, like 3-1, is the north-south Kimura. And it comes down to really, how I move and how I think about the position. But what cemented that for me is not only like the drills that my instructor taught, because one of them my instructor was a judo black belt way before he was ever a jiu-jitsu black belt. And so not only that, but like I remember going to a seminar back in 2013 or 14 from a man named Sensei Nick Lowe, who passed away a few years ago, but he was the head of UK Judo, like British Judo. And they showed up late, so it started at 10 instead of 9. And I left at 5:30 in the evening, and it was still going. And for that, I paid the whopping price of $25. And lunch was included. But one of the things that we did a lot of north-south work or Kamishi Yogatami. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is when he said this, he goes, he had the really cool British accent, like big, buff, bald-headed black dude. Like I love Sensei Nick. He was such a good dude. He goes, you know, what I don't understand about all these judokas out there is there are more ways to win on the ground in a Newaza than there is in Tachiwaza. But none of these bloody fools will work on Newaza. Why? I'm like, well, I do, but I see your point. And we're going over north-south, and he goes, okay, if you have me in, God damn it, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's the judo term, osaikomi, which means you have them pinned because you can win by pin in judo. If I'm in osaikomi, what is your number? You know, if I'm trapped, what is my number one weapon to escape? My hips. If I can get my hips under your hips, I can get out. Where are my hips furthest from your hips? Kami Shiho Gatami. And I'm like, huh. Digest. Okay. 2017, Marcelo Cohen came to my gym and did a seminar on, I'm sure this will shock everybody, on the Kimura.
That's his
and
move.
He showed the north-south.
Shocking.
Yep. And he showed the north-south Kimura. Huh. 2 weeks later, the guy who basically organized the seminar for me, who, you know, knows Marcelo really well, he's the guy who puts on Pro Jitsu. We went against each other at a local tournament, and I beat him with the north-south Kimura. And as we're walking off the mat, he looks at me and he goes, I'm really glad we had Marcelo come to your gym and teach you that, Vernon. I'm like, yeah, me too.
So just give me a visual for a second. I do north-south all the time. Where is your body? I mean, it's hard to just explain a position like that, but when you're north-south, are you kind of, you know, when I do the north-south, you know, I try to go for the old Marcelo Garcia, you know, the choke, the north-south choke. Are you above the body? It's like kind of your stomach over their face, or are you higher? Are you more disconnected? Are you higher
there?
Up?
Even if I'm going to do the more Marcelo choke, and I actually teach a little bit of that in my DVD, I actually do the Jeff Monson version of it that I really like. But what I tell everybody is this. There's a great match, and I'm going to preface this by saying the man is way more accomplished than I will ever be. You know what I mean? Again, but like I've, you know, again, that doesn't mean I'm not wrong in this situation. I watched a match on Quintet. It was like 2019. And it was between Gio Martinez and Satoshi Ishii. If you don't know who Satoshi Ishii is, gold medalist 2008 judo in the Olympics at ultra heavyweight. And he's also fought professionally for quite a while. And Satoshi had Gio in that north-south Kimura position for quite a while. Like I'm talking a couple of minutes. And I know Gio is made of rubber. Like I understand these things. But Gio was able to keep putting his back on the mat. Why? Because what everybody forgets about in that position is they're so hell-bent on the arm that has the Kimura that they forget about the other arm. Honestly, like if I'm coming from side control, I don't give a fuck about what you do. Like I'm going to try to isolate it and make it easy on myself as possible, but I don't give a fuck what you do with the hand I'm attacking. If I can get my weight and my shin across your opposite bicep,
okay,
I'm going to finish.
So now that you said that, now I see the positioning that you're in. I wasn't sure if you were like more, you're coming from like, well, like a northwest or northeast kind of, right? Like
so
you're higher. Okay.
In the video, it's called Northwest.
All right.
And so what I do is, but see, the thing is, I step, like when I come from that position, right? I step over the head like you normally do for a Kimura, but a lot of people just stay there. I drive my knee to the mat and into your back. Like I want to pinch on your head as hard as I can. And I'm thickalicious. So it makes my life a lot easier.
That sounds like a shirt. That sounds like a t-shirt idea, Bo.
Oh, dude, I got a couple. Yep. And so it makes it, because again, like if I can't get the Kimura, cool. I have something I call the Super Kimura. I have wrist locks. I have a bunch of different options. And plus I have a bunch of stuff with grip breaks. So I'm not worried about it. It's, you know, it's the line from Remember the Titans. It's like Novocaine. Just give it time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's all it is. And I really love that position, because the other thing is, it's like this. I love jiu-jitsu. Like, it is my shit. Like, I don't even like, I grew up, football was my shit. And for years after, like, usually, like, when I stopped playing baseball, I stopped giving a fuck about baseball. When I stopped playing basketball, I stopped giving a fuck about basketball. Football stuck with me up until jiu-jitsu, and it's been kind of replaced. You know what I mean? But like, I'm going to be honest here. If you watch Gi Worlds at black belt, kind of boring. Like, you sit there and it's two dudes tugging on each other's clothes, and hopefully one of them gets the advantage, and that's the end of it. And what that really is to me, and again, it's more mindset than it is anything else. It's like, okay, I know you're doing this, so I'm going to do this counter. And everybody knows that counter. So you're doing that counter, so I'm going to do this. And it goes back and forth, and it's either if somebody makes a mistake or what. When the matches get exciting, is when somebody either like, I'm countering you, but I'm doing it in a weird way, or I'm going to something that you haven't seen before, or something like that. Those are the matches that get interesting. Now, because of I'm about a 50-50 fighter. Like, I win some, I lose some. Like, I'm better like judo, Sambo gi than I am no gi, but I love no gi. But 75% of my matches, judo, jiu-jitsu, Sambo, gi, no gi, whatever, end early. Because I'm coming with some weird shit. Because if I'm losing, I'm defending, I'm doing my thing. But let me ask you an honest question. What's the difference between a loss by advantage and a loss by tap?
Both losses. They're both L's.
Right. So if I got that L, there's some things I do where it's like, I know I'm putting myself into a bad position to get out of a bad position, but I'm confident in my defense from there. And most of the time, most of the time it works out in my favor. Sometimes it don't. But you know what I mean? Yeah. I'd much rather give myself a better chance to win than sit there and gut it out and let the clock run down. Yeah. I'm not afraid of losing. I'm not afraid of, I tapped. Yep, I tapped. It happens. Yeah. It's jiu-jitsu. You're going to get another match. Like, that's life. You know what I mean?
I was having a conversation with somebody last night, kind of in line with that, where I was mounted on him. And he was asking me after Clay's white belt, so he's asking me, like, how do I get out from this? And I wasn't attacking him the way he has been attacked when we drill. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm in brown belt. I'm attacking in a different way. I have a whole different game. I'm not keeping my legs under him. I have my legs on top of his legs. I'm mounted, but I'm sitting completely on top of him, like in a crouch position. And nobody's ever done that to him. He said, how do I get out from that? I said, you've got to you got to take a little bit of a risk and maybe go to your side, right? You have to maybe try to scoop a leg. You got to shrimp. You maybe shrimp out from under me before I get my legs on top of you, because I'm going mount, I'm going to knee on belly, and then I'm going to actually go north-south. I actually want to finish in the north-south. So I'm just climbing. I'm climbing you. If you don't move in those three transitions, you're done. So it's kind of like, right. A lot of jiu-jitsu, the wins come in those transitions, right? Somebody moves, like you said, you put something out there. Maybe you want to bait me, maybe I'm baiting you, but one of us has got to take the bait to move to that next step, or we're just laying on top of each other, Well, and then it really is grab ass, like Mike Bidwell said.
Yeah. Well, no, look, he's not wrong.
Jiu-jitsu.
Well, here's what I call it. I call it Princess Bride Jiu-Jitsu. You ever seen you've seen the movie, right? Seen the movie. So the opening scene when they're sword fighting, I see you're using Capafeo. Is that because of the rocky terrain? Like, that is how a lot of it is.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? We're both playing the same game, taught by the same person. But he was like, again, he's going to be a very tall kid and tall man.
Yeah.
And he's pretty big. And I usually teach the big guys if I have the opportunity, not to coach, but to if I'm rolling with them and they ask me questions, I'm always going to tell a big guy, listen, north-south is going to be your best friend because of your size. Because guess what? Mm-hmm. How many times, I even ask you, how many times have you learned the defense to somebody going north-south on you? I don't, to this day, I haven't. Nobody's taught me how do you defend somebody from side control going to the top other than shrimping, getting out, catching a leg, right? If you could move fast enough and go north-south, people just don't know what to do with it. So I was telling him again, transitions and do something that people aren't going to expect.
Well, and that's exactly my point. Like, so my favorite thing to finish most people with, besides that and more, is that dinky little arm bar from Case Katana. Push the arm down, trap it with your leg.
Yeah.
I do it like, but here's the thing. I still catch people with it. Everybody's like, you're not catching me with that bullshit. Okay.
Yeah?
Because here's the difference. Most people sit out to north-south, to Case Katana, and then they attack the arm bar. When I've landed in Case Katana, your arm is already across my leg. I'm attacking as I transition. That's what makes it effective. But I've worked, and honestly, I didn't know I did that. I was teaching that as a purple belt when I had my own school. One of my guys goes, how do you do that? How the fuck do I do that?
It's funny that you're saying that right there, because again, part of our conversation last night was then, he was kind of like, I was trying to tell him you're going to get there. And then I started talking to him about the invisible jiu-jitsu that like Hickson Gracie talks about. It's just like riding bike. Like, I know I could ride a bike. I don't know how I'm balancing. It's practice, right? I practice, so I balance. It's the same thing with the jiu-jitsu. If you're not a coach, but you could be a really good jiu-jitsu player, you're not a coach, you may not know how to tell somebody how to do something that you do, but you know how to do it. You could do it just because the muscle memory, essentially. That invisible jiu-jitsu really means it's muscle memory. You can close your eyes and do that move. That's the invisible jiu-jitsu. So, again, I was imparting that on him as well. He's a grown man, but he's new to jiu-jitsu. So, he's asking a lot of questions, and I'm happy to answer them. And that was my answer. Like, look, it's going to come. Your body is going to get used to doing something in a certain way. If you decide to coach at some point, then you're really going to know how to effectively tell somebody how to do what you just did. Whether you're on a mat or sitting at a bar having a drink, you could explain it to somebody. But if you're not a coach, how many times have I had to say, hold on, come here, let me grab you. Let me show you. This is the way I got to show you. I may not always be able to verbalize it to somebody because I haven't coached since I was a white belt helping out my coach in my gym, So.
Well, and that's the thing. And like, I say this all the time, and, everybody always wonders, why does it take so long to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu? And so the way I describe it is this, like, you take me and my son, okay? My son is 5'7", and on a heavy day, and I'm not bullshitting when I say this, he's 117 pounds.
Wow.
He's a skinny little fuck. Now, first of all, I could name names of some world champions guillotines I have been in that are over 200 pounds. My son squeezes harder.
Really? Wow.
What's his name?
Because he's
Twigs?
fucking bony.
Twigs.
Bony. I don't let the little fucker have my neck anymore. Like, my joke in class, and I honestly don't mean it, but my joke in class is, look, I'm training sharks to bite me. One day you will all be better than me, except for Liam. Fuck him.
Thanks, Dad.
I heard that.
Yep. And,
oh, man.
like, I tell them, look at the two of us. First of all, you're not going to think it's my kid, but we went on Maury once. It's all good.
I was going to say, what does the postman look like, man?
But if we're taking karate, right, and we were to throw a punch or a kick, it should look roughly the same. Like, certain physical attributes or, minuses or, whatever else. But for the most part, a punch should, we should both throw a punch in roughly the same way. We should both throw a kick in roughly the same way. Certain things we do when we defend or how we move is going to vary a little bit person to person. But for the most part, like from a technical standpoint, everything should be basically the same. Right? Okay. The braking mechanics of an armbar are always the same, right? Like for everybody involved, braking mechanics are the same. But armbar from guard, how you get to those braking mechanics might be very different for you than it is for me, than it is for this guy, than it is for him. So my armbar from guard may look totally different from his armbar from guard. So first of all, you have to figure out how that you're going to do that with your body. Like, with all of its pluses, all of its minuses, all of its girth or lack of girth in his case, like whatever the case may be, right? So there's that. So first you have to figure that shit out after you've already figured out braking mechanics. Then you have to figure out how to do it to somebody who really doesn't want you to do it to them. And that's one technique. That's just one version of the armbar. And then people wonder why it takes at least 10 years most of the time to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
And how many black belts do we talk to here that say, I really started to, a game really elevated when I got to black belt? You know, the things that I started to do, the things that I would learn, you know, look, it's not like black belt. All right, I'm done. I always have the joke. Learned all the jiu-jitsu. I've learned all the jiu-jitsu moves. That's it. There's no more jiu-jitsu for me to learn. It doesn't happen. The belt is just the color. The journey continues on way beyond that. I'm so looking forward to it.
Oh, like, look, man, I give you a perfect example. A buddy of mine's got a gym down in South Carolina named Brian Edwards. Got his black belt a couple of years ago. Goes to Masters Worlds. Wins his first match by sub. Yeah, I'm on top of the world. You know what his next match was against?
Who?
Salo.
Salo Ribeiro?
Mm-hmm. What do? That man's been a black belt for over 20 years. You've been training for 10. But we're both black belts, right?
My coach says for every level, there's another level.
Dude, we're under, like, my instructor is a 6th-degree black belt from Rio. Originally got his black belt from one of Carlos Sr.'s oldest sons. We are under Joe Moreira right now, who is an 8th-degree black belt, you know, red and white belt, I should say, you know. And Joe was just doing a seminar at our place. And he literally did it on the cross collar choke and what I call the scruff choke, like where you reach over and grab instead of, like, you know, hand inside. Yeah. I've known those chokes since I was a fucking white belt. And they've never been shit for me. I'm working with the guy who my drilling partner was that day is also a black belt in BJJ, black belt in judo, black belt in American Combat Jiu-Jitsu, master combatives instructor in the Army, and the Sambo Federation that I'm the marketing guy for, he runs and owns.
Wow.
And I grabbed that little scruff choke just from a little shift in position in what Joe showed. And I hadn't even really, like, done much with it yet, and he tapped. I'm like, don't make it easy. And he goes, fuck that. That was nasty.
Those details, those tiny little things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So crazy, right?
Dude, it amazes me about awesome. Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, again, like, the stuff I'm really good at, like, there's a lot of people who tell you you're wasting your time learning that. Maybe. You know who said it best? Daniel Tosh.
Daniel?
He had a bit. The comedian. He had a bit. He goes, Andy Warhol said everybody gets 15 minutes of fame. But that's an average. It's not an aggregate. It's not like 15, 15, 15. And then he just starts pointing at the audience and goes 0, 0, 0, 0, 25 years, 0, 0, 0. But that's when somebody says that's a low percentage technique. May not be for me. But again, that's what makes this great. That's what makes this fun. There's things that, like, a triangle is one of the best chokes in jiu-jitsu. I'm 5'10", and I've got big fucking legs. I am not, like, I've got great technique when it comes to a triangle. Good luck holding somebody there, like, getting myself in position. Like, that's actually what I'm working on right now, more just because I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. This isn't kicking my ass. But shit ain't easy just because of how I'm built. But, like, my son, like, guillotines for a long time were my thing. Little fucker's had a nasty guillotine since he was 10. Like, it's what you have. You know, and that's what makes this great.
It's like a tarantula.
What I started to do, I hit one yesterday, and because I hate triangles as well. I'm just like, you know, if somebody can get, I have a bad lower back, so if somebody stacks me, then, you know, and then I'm letting go, and then I'm like I'm worried about the back and not about the finish. Yeah. But now I'm looking at mounted triangles. A big guy like me sitting on somebody's chest and getting on a nice triangle, lifting the head, like, this will be my triangle, but, you know, but I'm not compromised. with the potential of a stack. Maybe they could sweep, and hopefully I'll get better at it. But I said, oh, well, maybe this is going to be my version of the triangle, what's going to work for me. So, and my coach teaches it a lot. So I'm finally like, okay, wait a minute. This is it. This is probably the one for me. So let me, I know you have an event tonight, but I've got a speed round that we're going to go through some questions here. We'll go to, you can elaborate if you like. We can go fast as well.
My first instinct, if you sat on me, is just a visceral scream.
And that's going to be the last scream because you're going to have no air left in your lungs.
Scream like a little girl, man.
Well, my favorite type of triangle is a mounted triangle. I'm actually kind of good with those.
Yeah.
But B, when you squeal, then I just whisper in your ear, squeal like a pig. Come on.
Okay, now I'm scared.
All right, so speed round. Vernon, gi or no gi? What's your preference?
Love gi, way better at it, but I really wouldn't pick because I love no gi. I'm much better front headlock and standing with a gi on. And I'm just not as good at those positions, no gi, but I love no gi. No gi is so much fun.
I think I know the answer to this next one because you were talking about your students before. But takedown or pull guard?
Oh, Ranger Up has a T-shirt. So have you ever seen the meme? So I do a lot of memes, and my first meme went completely viral. No clue what a watermark was. You've probably seen it, and ADCC stole it from me. It was after that Gordon Ryan story, nobody was there but the band. You ever seen the one? It's like Anakin, he's turning to the dark side and says, the first time you hit a heel hook, you truly feel the power of the dark side.
I can't say if I've had to have seen it at some point. Yeah.
Yep. So I made that right after that seminar, and ADCC stole it like 2 months later. But I made a shirt from the dude meme from the dude from Vikings. It says, "You don't get the Valhalla by pulling guard."
I've seen that one. Yeah. I just realized I just asked a judo black belt if he take down or pull guard.
Yeah,
it's on my list. I screwed up.
No, you're good. But when I was prepping for my first fight to win, Nick from Ranger Up, who is all Army Judo, comes down to help me. And they were making a lot of Viking shit at Ranger Up, and I said, "Hey, have you seen that shirt? I mean that meme?" And he goes, "Oh, we have a shirt coming." I said, "You know who made that motherfucker, right?" That's kind of how he started sponsoring me.
Favorite competitor to watch?
It's hard because I have friends too, right? Like Marcelo Cohen is a friend. Gordon Ryan probably wouldn't know me if I walked up to him, but I've actually gotten to ref one of his matches. But I'm actually going to say one of my favorites, just because of his attitude and the way he is about shit, is Gary Tonin. I love Gary Tonin.
It's so smooth and effortless, man. You watch him and it's just like,
yep.
It's just like,
and you can tell he just doesn't give a fuck.
We have an early interview.
Beautiful. He's like, you got me here. Fuck you. Oh, you're up on points. Watch this. Fuck you. Wow. I love it, man. Yeah. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, we got that early interview with them.
Yeah, one of my co-hosts went down to a competition and down here in Miami and interviewed him, Gordon Ryan, his girlfriend, the whole crew.
Yep.
That was something.
That was cool.
Like, no press really could get in because something happened down here and the bridges were up and then they couldn't get to the venue. It was crazy. What's your ultimate goal in the world of jiu-jitsu? And hey, we could throw judo in there, but what's your ultimate goal in this whole thing?
I mean, my goal with most things in life is just to leave it better than I found it. Like here's the thing I say to people all the time. I'm like, guys like Gordon, Gary, like all these really high level guys, man, it's really cool. Like I'm a huge fan. Like, I mean, I just did a Dean Lister seminar and I fucking fanboyed out on that shit. Like I brought with me a DVD that I bought in 2014 of his catch leg system. And like, I mean, the night before I'm sitting there drinking a beer with Dean Lister and I'm like all giddy and shit. But the one thing that I want to kind of impart to most people and what I hope this does is say, quit putting limits on yourself. Like, this is a tool that can change your life if you let it, and fucking use it for what it's there for. And that is what I hope to contribute.
So what's I love that answer, by the way, because I feel that way about a lot of things in my life. It's like, I don't have to be the best, but if I can contribute to it a little bit, like you said, leave it a little bit better, and the next guy can take that and move it down the field a little bit more.
I had this thought, and you know, I'm really good at taking shitty movie quotes and tying them to big moments in my life. And when I first found out that Fanatics accepted me, you ever seen the movie Airheads?
Yes.
Came out in 1990.
I know the name. I'm not sure if I remember.
Okay, it was a shitty band that basically takes over a radio station, and the band is Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler. And there's this one scene, he's sitting there talking to the DJ, who's Joe Mantegna, and he goes, "Why are you doing this?" And he goes, "You know what? I'm just fucked up and average enough where I can write a song that lasts forever. And after that, it doesn't matter anymore." And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of this.
I like that. All right. What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you on the gym or at a competition? On the mats, let's say.
On the mats. There's some fun ones. I haven't had like a whole lot of crazy. Like a lot of that has been more off the mat type of thing. One that to this day cracks me up. Had a guy walk into my gym who he was like 200 pounds, definitely on some acai. And
acai and Jesus.
That's right, baby. And look, you know, I take TRT. I'll tell you that up front. I don't care. But he was like, "Oh, I'm going to be the same spiel. I'm going to be the next Ultimate Fighter and blah, 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 blah." I almost ended up really fucking him up because he started rolling with my son. This is a few years ago. My son was like 14. And he shot in on my son, tried to pick him up, and my son locked on a guillotine. And he started thrashing, and my son let go because he knows better and didn't want to get hurt. And he got mad, and I walked up to him, and I'm like, "What's your fucking problem?" "Man, that kid, I'm like, "What? He grabbed a hold of your neck like we're supposed to be fucking doing here? Are you mad that a fucking 14-year-old that's 100 pounds almost put you to sleep with all that fucking steroids running through you? Man, fuck you. Fuck me. Get the fuck out of my gym. What are you going to do if I don't? Fucking put your ass to sleep and drag you out. How about that?
I'm going to jiu-jitsu you. You got jiu-jitsu by my son."
My favorite thing I've ever done on the mat, I had a student who he was like 6 foot, 300 pounds, local cop, and he had started his law enforcement career in Mexico.
Nice.
Yeah. And
that's the minor leagues down there, right?
I'm rolling with him the first time, and I took his back. Seen the movie, you'll know the reference. And as I started to sink the choke, and I went, "Don't look at me. Don't look at me, little puppet."
I don't know the movie reference. You know that movie reference, Bo? I don't know that.
But that sounds
okay.
Funny.
80s like Mexican gang movie called American Me.
American.
And
wow, yeah.
And there's these two brothers, Big Puppet and Little Puppet. And I forget the reason why. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But Big Puppet has to kill Little Puppet, and so he comes up behind him with like the piano wire and is like choking him. And the kid's like freaking out. He's like, "Don't look at me! Don't look at me, little puppet, brother!" And it's like, he was like, "Dude, that's fucked up." I'm like, "But it was funny, wasn't it, Javi?"
Now the memes, all the memes make sense. Do you do all those memes, or do you have somebody that works on your page? Is it all you?
No, I do. I have done all of that myself. I usually do it like when my computer is booting up in the morning for work. Like I on the spot daily make that shit.
Yeah.
Like I've had a couple big ones, like that one that I did one recently with a Venom comic book thing, and like it was my biggest one to date. It was like 4,500 likes.
He was talking to the mom, right? I think I saw that. I saw that one today.
Yeah. Again, I make that shit up on the spot. Like I had one when I was prepping for my first fight to win. I was working for this guy. It was a Brazilian guy, ironically enough, but it was like a kitchen and bath company. I was in sales. It's my birthday weekend. I'm being forced to work. I'm cutting weight. And I mean, I had to cut 15 pounds in like 2 weeks.
Oh, so you were just nothing but fun and hugs and.
Oh yeah.
You were.
So I can't eat any of the shit food that's there. And by the way, I'm arguing with this guy over $500 in commission that I was owed, by the way. Like they finally relented. It was maybe a little more than that. This motherfucker pulls up in a lime green Lambo with a shirt on that I thought was like a Brazilian soccer jersey. And it turned out it had Cartier written all over it. I'm like, dude, I know pimps that wouldn't wear that shit. And like all these fucking kids are like, oh my God, look at that. Look at the Gucci belt. So I took a picture of a Gucci belt. And then underneath it, I put a picture of a black belt. I said, man, you think this one's expensive? Let me tell you how much this one costs.
Shit. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that one.
That's a slap.
We got another couple more questions for you. If you could go back in time and talk to yourself before the very first time you stepped on the mat, what would you tell yourself?
Absolutely nothing.
Nice.
Just I'd let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard you ask this question and it was the same answer, but like, let me take it a step further. You and I both started this later in life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of guys who do. And there's just little thought that rattles around their head. And I've had it. You've had it, I'm sure. If I had started this when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I say to that. Like, because I actually got invited to a jiu-jitsu class when I was like 20. Didn't know what it was. And honestly, the dude who asked me was gay, and I thought he was hitting on me. So I was like, no. And
it's a no-gi class.
Yeah, exactly. And wearing a cup? That's weird. But kind of tongue in cheek, but also like, I'm a fairly decent athlete. I'm smart. Like, do I think, especially looking at like the caliber of athlete, like the 185, 205 pound division back then, I could have done okay? Absolutely. Like in the UFC or something like that? Yeah, I really do think I could have. But here's the thing. I've been through a lot. Like I've been through a divorce. Both of my kids were born at 25 weeks, 1 pound 6, 1 pound 7.
Wow.
I haven't spoken to my father in damn near 20 years. My mother has just beaten 2 types of cancer, had a bone marrow transplant, hip replacement, and a shoulder replacement. My son was in a hospital because he tried to hurt himself earlier in the year.
Oh man.
Wow.
All of it. Pardon me.
It's all right.
But at the same time, I'm really happy with who I am, even through all of that. And it's taken a lot to become that way. And the lessons that this has taught me, if I'd gotten that, if I got into this when I was like 19, 20, I'd be a totally different person. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have a lot of the things in my life that I enjoy. And I'm like, why would I trade any of that? It happened the way it was supposed to. So, I mean, there's all things we
I would have
back,
quit.
But
I would have quit.
Yeah.
I quit. I was an athlete as a kid, but I quit everything because I wanted to go to the next sport, or I got bored, or just became a teenager. Atari was our video games back then, right? But I wouldn't have stuck with it. I didn't have the discipline. I needed to have started this when I was older. I started it when I was supposed to. I was supposed to, and look what it led to. I would have, again, I did different martial arts when I was a kid. I quit everything.
Yeah.
I quit that. I quit football. I quit soccer. I quit track, wrestling. But I take something away from each one of those little things, and it's built me into the person I am. And I don't call myself an athlete, but it turned me into the person that I am today, and including my jiu-jitsu.
You're not Leith.
Well, and I mean, here's the other big part of it too. Like I honestly feel this, like as a business owner, I probably shouldn't say this, but, and again, it's not always the rule, but like, and I've got some kids who have started with me at different ages and it's actually done them very well. But I honestly feel like you either need to start this by the time you're 11, where like puberty hasn't kicked in yet, or when you're like 30 and you've gotten past all that, testosterone and angst and anger. And, I've got a bumper crop right now. I've got like belt promotions this week and I got 5 blues and a purple. And all of my blues are under 30 and they're actually great human beings, which is even better. They're good competitors, but they're better people. And, my purple belt's my age and in Iraq, Afghanistan vet and just a crusty fucker. I honestly feel that like, there's a lot of kids that with like, the problem is too, and it's like, they don't get the right guidance. So like maybe they get involved, but they don't have the right coaching that gets through to them. And I was lucky. I've had amazing coaches over my life, all sports. And I'm very thankful for that. And it's what I think makes me a good coach. That and the fact that I have a mom who was, a special ed teacher for 40 years. So she knew how to fucking understand me and break shit down for me. So that helps too.
Yeah.
But my bad.
It's okay.
There we go.
You're right back.
Thumb did it.
Just reminding everybody who you are.
Yep. Exactly. I'm a special boy. But my big thing with all of this, guys, is like, this is just the catalyst. It really is. It's just the catalyst to make you a better person. Now, this may not be your thing, and that's cool. That's why there's this big bad world out there that you can find your thing. I don't care if it's fucking chess, checkers, volleyball, rollerblade. Like, dude, do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. So mine just happens to be strangling people
in my pajamas.
Yep.
All right, we got our very last question. This is the big one. If you listen to an episode, you probably know what's coming.
Yep.
Do you or do you not wash your jiu-jitsu belt?
I sold microscopes for 15 years. I've been in a lot of microbiology labs.
Great start to an answer.
Wash your fucking belt, you dirty bastards. Wash your belt, wash your gis, wash your rash guards, wash your ass.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Oh, dude. I have that fear.
Sitting on my head trying to Kimura me. And
this is part of what holds me back from jiu-jitsu is the fear of badass.
Don't worry about it. It's not that often, but it does happen.
I mean, I could just go in, with nose clips.
Vernon, don't go anywhere. We're going to say goodbye, but hang on. Stay there for a second. But we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
And if you're ever in Florida, come on down. We'll do one in-house, which is what we always love to do. But
absolutely
appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a good night, man. Enjoy your event tonight.
Yep.
Take care. All right. Very cool, man. Right? Awesome, dude.
Very, very cool.
I don't know that you got the reference, but, his @Jiu-Jitsu Dad Bod Instagram, he does a lot of memes.
Yeah.
It's where I just knew him of more before I started to kind of, get into the, watching his videos and his,
it's funny because I came across his
online
Instagram.
Personality.
Yeah, I came across his Instagram because, you get suggestions related to people you're friends with.
Yeah.
It's the only good fucking thing about Instagram. And then those girl pics. Anyway, so.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What? Neither do I. But I came across that and I was looking and I was like, all right, this dude's really funny. And I think it was because we were talking on WhatsApp about,
Yeah. I always share it with you guys. Once you look at it, then you're going to start to see his stuff
more. And I was like, wow, that was really funny.
Yeah, he's a great dude. His memes are hilarious. I've been reposting. It's, anytime I've reposted him, he's always said thank you. He's always said, thank you for reposting,
Yeah,
but I didn't really know who he was. I mean, he didn't name the page after himself, so I didn't know who it was. And, you don't always go visit the page. You give him a quick follow right. And whatever. But, yeah, I'm glad we were able to, have him on the show. And thank you to Britt for setting it up. We have our booking manager, Nat. Now, Britt Tavar.
Nice.
She's done a killer job. She's booking. She's into February already.
Good job.
Great job, Britt.
Good job.
We love you.
Excellent.
So let's just do a little bit of housekeeping, everybody. Shout out to our Patreon podcast patrons, including gym sponsors Carlson Gracie Winter Haven in Winter Haven, Florida, cgwinterhaven.com, at Carlson Gracie _Winter Haven on Instagram, Carlson Gracie Broward County in North Lauderdale. We might be seeing Big J pretty soon. Bo knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some, hopefully we have a nice little surprise for you on one of the next couple of episodes, maybe the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Carlson Gracie Broward County in North Lauderdale, Florida, CarlsonGracieBrowardCounty.com, and at Carlson Gracie Broward County on Instagram. John Way, newest black belt down here in South Florida, John Way Martial Arts in Plantation, Florida.
Congrats.
JohnWayMartialArts.com and at John Way Martial Arts. Congrats, John. We'll have you on us again soon. We also want to shout out our individual podcast patrons. So these are people that, basically sponsor the show for like $5 a month, and then they get entered into a drawing every month for up to $100 in jiu-jitsu swag, right? So we've got Jebediah Berra. I'm sorry, Jeb. I always screw up your name. Maybe I'm just going to call him Jeb. Jeb Berra, Robert Walker, Frank House, Boa Athletics. You can check out Boa Athletics at BOA_athletics on IG. Got Jason Smiley, CJ Carroll, Mission 22, Chuck Reddoor, and Roberto Santiago down here in South Florida. If you'd like to support the show, visit patreon.com/Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. You can check out at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies, our IG, for all the ways to watch, listen, support, and donate to our scholarship program, where we award one-year scholarships to veterans, first responders, and amazing kids. We're going to do it from the show, not the foundation anymore, so we're just kind of putting things together to get ready to just do one in the new year. I know we keep on talking about it, but if you'd like to donate, again, go to our IG, click the link in our bio, and you can support us in supporting people finding therapy through jiu-jitsu. Thank you to, speaking of therapy through jiu-jitsu, thank you to the We Defy Foundation for their support. If you don't know what they do already, and we talk about them on every episode, but they help veterans through, essentially, they're providing therapeutic relief to disabled combat veterans through jiu-jitsu, right? So it's an incredible organization. I went to their event in Dallas. They raised well over $100,000, and it was an amazing event just to kind of, see all these people that are really donating their time. Nobody gets paid. Everybody's just donating their time. So it's an incredible organization, and proud to be an ambassador. Check them out at We Defy Foundation on Instagram, and you can donate anytime at WeDefyFoundation.org. Last but not least, Fight Back CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at FightbackCBD.com with code JJD. Again, on Milton campus. You can get me at Uncle Milty BJJ on Instagram.
We're going out here.
Bo behind the camera?
Yeah. I'm Bog.
Oh.
But nobody knows my actual name. They just know me as Bo.
Be careful.
Little Bo Peep.
They're going to know where to find you now.
Little Bo Peep.
Go ahead.
I'm going to save that. When we get to 500,000 subscribers, I'll reveal my real name.
We got a little while.
How's that? No, well,
Ready?
At least it's a challenge.
Yeah.
The 500,000 subscriber challenge on YouTube.
So where can they find you?
There's a dumpster outside, usually behind that around 12 a.m. or so. Heavy breathing, sweating. Now, Bad Works on IG, BADWERKS.
There you go. All right, everybody, we're going to let you go. Thank you for watching and listening. Stay safe. Peace, love, jiu-jitsu, baby.
Oh.
Os.